Good?
Good.
All right. I'm going to bring this meeting to order. I'm Don Berube, 135 River Road.
Kim McDaniel, Select Board Rep.
Adam Sandall, 9 Edgewood Drive.
Carrie Mackinnon, Community Development Director.
Jess Duke, 50 Brown Hill Road.
Ben Davis, 9 Wheeler Road.
Michael Lawton, 3 Ace Drive.
Jonathan Petrangelo, 5 Whittier Drive.
Sandy Crystal, 1 Shoreview Drive.
Andrew Iverson, Journey Secretary.
All right. See a big crowd tonight.
This is
We're going to move right on to item number 2, public hearings. Proposed amendments to the zoning ordinance on the town warrant. First one, should probably go through one by one.
Yeah, definitely. So
Yeah.
just so everyone understands, these are amendments that were put together by staff mostly. The idea is the planning board needs to hold a public hearing to decide whether to put them on the ballot. The voters will decide whether or not they are approved in March. If there are any changes made to any of these tonight, we'll hold a second public hearing and we'll talk about the date when we get to that. But if everyone's happy with the way they are, then we could be done.
Okay.
Or we can, but I mean, if we need to make changes, we should make
We'll make
changes and get it right.
All right. First one, A, to amend section 5.11G and 1 to permit motor vehicle sales and rentals in the limited industrial I1 and general industrial I2 districts where a special exception is currently required.
This is in response to a recent special exception that the zoning board of adjustment received for Ballard Truck Center to sell trucks in the I2 district.
Where, and there's a lot of that use going on now. And
I will note that since the state law requires that if we're changing uses or dimensional requirements in a zoning district that has fewer than 100 properties in it, we have to notify them all the owners by mail. And so I1 is pretty small, has fewer than 100 properties. So we did send out letters to all of those property owners to let them know about this.
okay.
no response.
0.
Okay.
Um,
How do we want to work through these so we sort of have agreement? Should we have a public hearing and then focus on that?
Yeah.
That'd be,
Yeah,
how you want to
do
do
what you
Okay,
want.
yeah.
And then after the board's comfortable with it, you can take a vote to put it on the ballot, add it to the warrant.
So does anybody on the board have any questions, issues, comments on it?
The only change would be that.
That's it. I crossed out those S's, which means special exception, and changed it to P's, which means it's permitted. This is the simple one to start with.
Okay.
Do you want to make a motion on that?
Yeah, I think we should technically open a public hearing. Sorry.
So I'll open the meeting to the public. If anybody has any comment. We don't even have crickets, and I will close the public hearing. So what'd you say you added the,
Yeah, so if you have the proposed 2025 zoning
changing
amendments
it to
guidance document, you see the S's are crossed out and there's P's that replace them.
Yep.
The change.
I would make a motion to add proposed amendment A to the warrant article.
My second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Yeah,
Yeah,
is
I
everyone's voting?
Yes, how many?
Well, we should only have 7 really.
You should only have 7, right?
7. 7.
All right. Jessica, you're gonna be in?
I was the last one in the door.
You're the last one to go.
Yeah.
But feel free to share comments if you.
Yes. Would love input.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to B, to amend section 10.01E to allow maintenance of approved stormwater facilities without requiring a conditional use permit.
Sandy, do you want to talk about that?
Oh, sure. The zoning ordinance currently talks about the stormwater facilities not having buffers, but then it didn't say anything about requirements related to the stormwater facility once it's built, if it, kind of meets the definition of a wetland. I know DES has an exemption, but we had an inquiry this past fall, and so we thought, let's put it in to make it clear that it's for maintenance of approved stormwater facilities, so someone can't say, oh, well, this has been a, stormwater basin for the past 50 years. It's like, no, we have to have something that the town approved or DES approved. Usually we have the town approval, and that we'd have a plan on file, and there may even be, and there's a another statement, a little footnote added on the next page. Maintenance of stormwater facilities, including maintenance dredging, is permitted only where there is an approved stormwater plan, a record with the town. Activity must be consistent with the original design and any approved operations and maintenance manual. The operation and maintenance manual right now is something that's required by DES in certain circumstances, and that may be something we want to just put into our site plan regs, that they should prepare one. And even if it's something also, I think they have to prepare one if they get a permit from the state, if it's going to be privately held, but if it's going to be publicly held, they don't have to do one. But I talked to Tim and he thought that, in future it'd be good to have it. So that will be something we can take up in the site plan regs. The only question I have, Carrie, is this talks about requiring a conditional use permit. Do we want to say in the, what do we say, WC district or Wetland Conservation District? Since we have more than
yes.
one CUP.
Yeah, should I say without requiring a wetlands protection conditional use permit? Or should we say in the wetland protection district?
I mean, we could. I don't know. I mean, we could, initially I was going to say wetland conditional use permit.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
I know we actually have a wetland conservation district, or so whichever way you think is.
I think we can say without requiring a wetland protection conditional use permit, and that would make it clear. And I also,
He already has the title and conditional use permit and
In the WC
Yeah.
district, right?
Yeah.
I think that's true.
it's a table of uses for
It's
wetland
for the
conservation
wetland, yeah,
district. It's already
true.
in the
The
title.
title is there, yeah.
Do stormwater facilities have wetland buffers, or are they like exempt from?
Well, our ordinance says it doesn't, you don't have a buffer,
yeah, the buffer does not apply, but it didn't.
but it didn't say anything about,
If it is a wetland itself, it didn't talk
Yeah,
about
if
work
it's-
actually in
if
it.
it's something that's, that's, especially things that turn into or start to grow vegetation, they've been either let go a little bit too long or whatever, which is actually the case in this situation. They had cattails in it and stuff.
I just wouldn't want people to think like if they've got a pond that they like can't do any work like on like the berm of the pond, like
Well,
mowing.
that's not
things
part of
like
that stormwater management.
Well, I would think if the berm of the pond, I would think that's part of if it's the design for the stormwater facility, then I'd say that's maintenance of the stormwater facility. We are clear on I don't have the ordinance in front of me at the moment, but we are clear that there's no buffer on stormwater facility.
So we have the dash in there for the buffer categories, which means it's not permitted. Instead, should we make an NA?
Yeah, I mean, to me, like
The
somebody,
dash means not permitted.
yeah,
Right,
that's
NA,
that's what I was getting at, that somebody
Oh,
might look at
okay.
that and say like, well, we can't like mow the berm.
Right,
I think that makes more sense.
yeah.
So for prime wetland buffer and wetland buffer, instead of the dash, would put NA.
Yeah. Yeah, let me just see, what is the part of the ordinance here? It's just that I have all this other stuff.
Sean's right, it's in the title, so it'd be redundant to add it back in.
Yeah, that's fine.
So if we're changing this, do we not vote on it tonight?
Right, if we were just changing the description to add wetland protection in there, but since we're actually changing it to NA, I think we should probably. There's public hearing just to be certain.
Sorry.
No, we can do it, no, I mean, we can do it at the.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna be here. It's
Meeting
only-
January 16th, we can do it then. It's not gonna require a special meeting. Unless there's a lot of things we need to do, because there's a lot of other things that we should make it right. We shouldn't make an extra.
So
Yeah, so
how,
we're not doing it next year again.
Yeah,
so how should we do the motion on that? Don't make a motion or? make a
Yeah.
mo-
just don't make a motion.
Okay.
Okay, just one other thing, and Adam, maybe you should take a look at it. In the ordinance on page, I think it's on page 76, which is the page,
77 in our book.
oh, 77, okay. Well, I'm looking at the
The blue one.
setback, well, I'm looking at the D,
The 2D.
He is 76. then.
76, and under, it says table of minimum wetland buffers. And then there's an A through D, and then there's a second group A through C that talks about buffers should not be required if the wetland is one of the types, and it talks about sedimentation, detention, or retention basin. I'm wondering whether we need to broaden that, or can we leave it like that for this year and next year fix it? I mean, we have, the thing is, we have, gravel wetlands, so like, does it go into that category?
Should it say stormwater management facilities? Is that broader?
Yeah, well, that's why I thought
I mean, I think it's helpful to have the examples. Sedimentation, detention, or retention basin. Could we say,
well, I guess I'm just wondering whether there are other stormwater facilities
there's like a zoning,
beyond that then people are gonna come in and say, uh-oh,
Yeah.
it's a different.
there's like line practices and gravel wetlands.
Right, gravel wetlands is what
biofilters
came
and
to mind, yeah.
A zillion different things.
Do you-
I mean, I
Do you
think,
do stormwater such as, like, just put that in front of it and say such as a sedimentation, detention, or
Yeah.
retention basin?
Stormwater BMPs, including,
Yeah.
This is a fun one because it's hard to call out what section it is. It's 10.01D. The second B.
so I know, labeled it after that.
why can't we simply like get rid of A, B, and C and just call it should not be required if the wetland or surface water is a stormwater management feature such as a pond or something. I mean, those are all examples of stormwater.
Yeah, the biggest problem is I think we clarified the fire pond, the pond
Last year, yeah.
last year, that is be kind of currently in that status. And the problem is with ditches, some streams look like ditches because they've been rerouted.
Do you want to put a title for that section to separate the A, Bs, and Cs?
I mean, you could, since
Buffer exceptions or something?
also since the section has no numbers,
gonna say, it could be 1, 2.
you could even do a 1 for table of minimum wetland buffers and a 2 for buffers shall not be required.
Yeah.
Do we define stormwater BMPs somewhere in here, like just to I mean, I don't wanna add a definition to something that's not otherwise defined in here someplace else. The stormwater, what is the stormwater section?
I suspect it isn't, but I don't know.
There's definitions.
Article 3.
Do you think formatting to stay consistent with everything else that's in Article 10?
Mhm.
That we make table of minimum wetland buffers 1, buffers 2, and table of minimum wetland setbacks 3. And that,
Yeah,
because everything else is laid out in that same format.
Mine is.
And then that way we can
Yeah, that would make it easier. I'm wondering if so there's that first paragraph, like under D, there's the first paragraph. I wonder if that should be number 1, because otherwise that's just kind of,
oh, then it just stands it. Well, all of the sections kind of seem to have a paragraph.
Yeah.
before. Well, I guess not.
No.
It's
A is-
inconsistent. A has a paragraph, B doesn't.
yeah.
right. But A doesn't have any numbers. It's just
Right,
the
that's
If it's
true.
just the paragraph, then it's not numbered.
Okay. Well, we can make the paragraph a D1. And then
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, so the paragraph under D is table of minimum wetland buffers is 2. Buffers shall not be required is 3. And
Table of minimum
of
wetland setbacks.
4. Okay, I like that. And then,
We're making a-
And then what do we want to do with that text?
yeah, so the actual
first
content.
question.
So we're talking about D3, specifically B. I mean, I think maybe you could say stormwater management facilities, including sedimentation,
Mhm.
detention, or retention basins.
Yeah, yeah.
I just wanna see, I'm in the subdivision regulations and there's the storm drainages in section 8. I think we should probably try to, if we can, make it the words consistent.
What section are you looking at?
subdivision.
Oh, okay.
Subdivision, page 49.
We can also fix subdivision
Detention.
regulations later.
Okay, so it talks, so on the specific design standards, it talks about detention ponds. So could we, just to keep the words the same?
I see a
I
lot
guess
of
it does-
detention/retention areas.
Yeah.
Detention
Um,
ponds/structures. Yeah, most places it says detention/retention areas.
So I guess those words are, was it 70?
6.
You had mentioned the pond, I didn't know whether.
Could we say, maybe take out sedimentation and say a detention? What's the difference between detention and retention? That's the same thing, isn't it?
What?
You're the engineer.
Detention and retention. I always thought that detention were dry and the retention were
Oh, like a wet
always had
pond
the
versus
wet
a dry pond?
Yeah, like always a water, because I remember the D for detention and dry. That's
Yeah, so that's just kind of slows it down versus retention.
Concentrate.
It's just during the
Meant to
peak and then that's it.
Meant to be, yeah, so maybe we change that to be detention, comma, retention basin, or similar.
I was wondering the same thing, or similar.
Well, I think, so what was, I guess the other thought that we had mentioned is saying stormwater management facilities including, and that way it would allow a little broader than what we're just listing. Because I don't like or similar, because I think that people can kind of.
The question is, what's clearer? It's not what we like, but the point of this is to be as
Oh.
clear as possible.
Well, that's,
So that's what I don't know the answer, but like, what will make it clearest to people who are trying to read this? You too, the people who know.
I just don't wanna, I don't wanna limit it to certain things because there's a lot of things that it could be.
well, that's why I was saying stormwater management facilities, including listing a couple of them. And don't forget, that's not an all-inclusive list. So it would provide the
Including but not
flexibility.
limited to.
Could it be such as, or is that too generic?
We can say such as instead of including. Yeah, we could say such as if you think that that's easy.
Water.
Such as detention, retention basin.
Such as. Let's say.
And you talked about leaving out the sedimentation one.
Okay, so it's gonna say a stormwater management facility.
Stormwater management facility.
Mm-hmm.
Facility such as a detention or retention basin. Okay, so it's gonna say a stormwater management facility such as a detention or retention basin.
Also, then that stormwater management facility matches what's in the table, the words used in the table.
Okay, got it. So that'll be on the list for next time.
Well, it says stormwater facility, it doesn't say stormwater management.
Oh,
Change them both.
we could change them both if you want.
Yeah,
You get it all figured out? I want to see what the public thinks of it.
Great call.
So I'll open it to the public. If anybody has any comment? Not seeing any, I will close the public hearing.
Just to go back, so for the text of Amendment B where it says to amend 10.01E, blah, 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 are we adding wetland protection in those words there?
I don't think you need to because it's already captured within the title
of the table.
of the table. I don't think you need to add it in there.
So yeah, I think that's just that bold text is what's gonna show up on the ballot though.
Yeah, I think what you are gonna have to do is you're gonna have to list more than just 10.01.OE because we're making an adjustment to D.
Yeah, that.
Oh,
I
yeah,
have to
she'll
work
have
that
that
in.
too.
That'll have to get worked into it, but do we wanna say wetland protection?
Wetland, just so
Permit?
people know,
What
you know,
kind of
what,
CUP?
what part of the ordinance, yeah.
You could put Wetlands Conservation District, CUP.
Yeah, I think we call it a wetland protection CUP, so. Okay, that's good.
I have a question. So says permitted only where there is an approved stormwater plan on record. And Sandy, you had mentioned like not one from 50 years ago. Do we have to say anywhere in that to have like a time frame? Because could they say, well,
No,
you have a record on, the town has a record, but maybe it's not up to code? Like, how does that work?
you know, I don't know how many years we've had plans. It just, I mean, wind chimes, the inquiry we got was definitely, you know, within the past 20 years, so.
Okay.
So that's it.
And also DES's alteration of terrain.
That's what I was gonna say.
Has an approved plan.
Okay.
And that's generally, like, when we get those, that's what it is, isn't it? It's the AOT inspection and maintenance plan. Is there like another version of that that people?
It's the permitted plan. The inspection and maintenance, as I mentioned, as I learned from looking at the rules, is not, the manual is not required if it's going to the town. But there is an approved plan. And so that would, we know what the dimensions are supposed to be
Right.
for them to, and they should know what the dimensions are supposed to be to do any maintenance.
Okay.
So if they don't have, if there's no plan, if it's this old thing, like, that they can't dredge it without getting.
A CUP, right.
But could they make a plan and submit it as part of like to get a CUP?
Oh, so that there'd be an approved one on record?
That they get a
Yes.
CUP
Oh, I would
and
think so.
include a plan.
That would be ideal, right?
Yeah.
And that would be the mechanism for doing that. is the
Right.
get a CUP.
Mhm.
I mean,
Right.
the 50-year-old development, you know, there isn't a plan, it's the waters go, away, you know, because there wasn't that requirements to begin with, to have a plan.
Okay.
All right, we ready to move on?
Yes.
Okay, C, to remove local amendments to the building code from section 1401. A, I, and little a.
These are some of the parts that the building inspector came to talk about previously. These were local amendments to the building code that were in the zoning ordinance. They are no longer enforceable. Most of them are no longer necessary because they've either been adopted into the newer versions of the codes already or built into the rules otherwise. So they're not doing anything by being there. We can't enforce them either. So there's no point in them being there.
Sounds like an easy one.
So we're just crossing them out.
So the potable water test is now part of the,
Yes, it's required by something else in the building code, which I can't cite directly. but
Okay.
Building inspector can.
okay.
Yeah, so we had submitted all of these to the building code review board. There's a new RSA passed this year that required any local amendments to go to the board for their review to get them like officially adopted by them. And they told us they were all denied, so.
Anybody have any other comment? I will open C up to the public. I will close the public hearing. Seeing any?
I'll make a motion to add proposed amendment C to the warrant.
All those-
Second.
Callan, you just-
Adam already got it.
Oh, Adam, second.
He was a quiet second over there. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? C is on the ballot. D, to replace Article 16 impact fee ordinance and methodology reports in its entirety. This amendment would implement a new school impact fee assessed on the new residential development.
All right. I worked on this some. We got some back from the consultant that we used to write the new school impact fee report. And then I also sent it to the town attorney and got different recommendations. And then I sent it back to the attorney to review and get more feedback and have that any responses.
Sounds like-
It has been the holidays.
Huh?
Maybe he's been on holiday.
Yeah.
We really wanted to.
No, he's swamped. I'd say I feel pretty confident in it. I would feel more confident if it was blessed. Some of the changes in here are that, so the old ordinance had, so I guess the biggest discrepancy is where does the actual report. So there's the ordinance that allows the town to have the fees. It kind of talks about how they're assessed, there's definitions, how they're paid and how they're collected. And then there's the actual report that gets updated when new fee come on board like we have right now, a new one proposed. And whether this actually becomes part of the ordinance itself and needs to all go to town meeting. Whereas our consultant told me that we could just have a public hearing of the planning board and adopt it. And that's actually what our ordinance says, that the planning board can adopt changes to it at a public hearing. But,
I thought we could, like, that's how we took it out. I mean,
and that's how it's been done in the past, but I've been advised otherwise, that it needs to go to town meeting regardless. And so I've tried to update the ordinance to say that. And then there's some, to me, what's confusing to me, questions about the timing of when it's assessed. So if there's a site plan or subdivision, it should be assessed at the time of the site plan or subdivision. If there isn't, then it's at the time of the building permit. So currently what we do is on every site plan and subdivision, they're required to put a note on it that says impact fees will be assessed at the time of building permit. So like, for example, subdivisions that have already been approved by the planning board, but the building permits have not been pulled yet, would they be assessed the new impact fee or the old impact fee?
I think it would be the current impact fee.
The new, yeah,
Isn't it?
because that's the cost of things.
Yeah, because the law says it's assessed, I mean, at the time of the subdivision. But our subdivision plan says at the time of the building permit. So I was hoping to get some clarity on that so that we could put that clarity right.
Well,
into
then
the
if it's the
ordinance.
time of subdivision, then somebody needs to ante up the money before the building.
Well, so then being assessed and being paid are two different things. So assessed is saying, okay, you are going to owe X amount. Regardless, they're not due, they don't give us the check until right before the occupancy permit.
Yeah, but, I mean, I guess you could have your subdivision approved and what you're gonna, build there, and then you can, add some bedrooms, whatever, before you pull that building permit, when you pull a building permit, you have more of the actual value.
It's a flat per dwelling unit.
Is it just per dwelling?
Yeah, it's just for a single family home. And I mean, if they were changing it to like a duplex or something, that's totally different. So those are the questions I have.
Since we gotta do the other one, it makes sense to just table this one and
I
wait
can
and
send
hopefully we
an
get.
urgent message and say, we're at the end of the line here. Can you give us some
Yeah, time's up.
help? And then we can hope to get something else. And then beside that, is there any other concern about the amount of the impact fee that's going to be implemented or anything else from the study?
It's 9,557 for single family. And in the multifamily condominium got updated.
You want page
Page 8.
No, you want to go to page 9.
Let's see.
Oh, page 9 is the net. What's the,
Beyond that, yeah, that part.
net impact?
Very
Less land credit.
Yeah, so it's that net impact fee, the right column.
So gross impact versus less, okay.
Single family is 70.
Did that change from
So when they say, a two-family unit, you're saying the entire two-family house pays that? Or is it a unit in a two-family house?
I was
It's
wondering.
a unit and a two.
Yeah, see, I think,
Should
yeah.
be more clear.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Why did they have a miscalculation? Why did the fees go down for single family from the first revision? So the first revision net impact fee was single family at 7,819. And I know that we talked about the multifamily and condominium being inaccurate, going up from 1,826 and now it's reflecting 5,350, but I don't understand why single family went down, two family went up. So they must have changed rates somewhere in here.
Yeah, I can't remember.
But a lot of the text talks about how two-family tends to have higher kids than single-family.
Right, and that's what it's.
Yeah, I'm not disputing that.
Right.
I'm just saying that logically that something doesn't make sense to me unless they made modifications to a rate structure fee.
Trying to remember, let me see if I have it.
Because if it was the prior, that was the one that we had as the first revision. And the-
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
why
Okay.
would, if two family went up, why wouldn't single family go up?
Mm-hmm. Right.
I know we looked at a couple of things and the final, we made some final changes and I can't recall what they were.
So it looks like they changed the impact fee calculation ratio. But changed it. So single family students per unit went from 0.192 down to 0.190. And that's why the gross impact fee went down for single families. Multifamilies went from 0.03 or 0.043 to 0.125. Which makes sense.
Right, because originally they were including all the multifamily and condos in town, not just the
Yeah.
ones that allow children.
Continuing that one.
So other than just getting the general legal blessing, are there any other specific questions I should ask?
So yeah, Carrie, so it doesn't. It is consistent. So they did make it in both changes, both spots. I guess that makes sense. I don't have any other questions outside of that.
There are a couple of places, one place in each that, when it talked about the population increase, one place it did 9.4%, one place it did 9.5% for the same time frame. So I don't know.
Do you happen to recall where?
Yes, yeah. Okay, the 9.5% is on page 5. Above the building permit trends. And then let me see, I think the 9.4% was on page 3 in the first paragraph.
Okay.
Actually, references 9.4 now.
Again, 9.4.
Mm.
You got it down, move it around.
And then one question I have, it talks about the school district operating 5 schools and then lists 4. Or for programs,
What page is that on?
page 6. I know it says including, but my question is, what's the 5th?
Is it the one?
So they talk about the elementary school, the middle school, the high school,
The preschool?
the pre-K at the high school.
That's the 5. Preschool, elementary.
I think that, isn't that 4?
Yeah.
It says the Bow School District operates 5 schools, so they're talking about.
Oh, Dunbar.
Just the 5th school.
But we don't operate.
It's
Schools
part of our school.
Dunbar.
Right.
It's part of SAU.
Wait, I'll ask.
All right,
Is it, what's that thing across from the,
The rec center?
It's not run, done,
no, on the other side of the elementary school?
Sobering children.
I wasn't
It's
thinking
run by
about that,
Okay.
but that is,
Is there like an alternative program or something?
I'm just trying, what's the thing across from the elementary school that the town?
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
it's Celebrating Children.
Yeah.
It's run by the town, not the school district.
Oh, I thought Celebrating Children was here.
It was.
it used to be here.
Used to be over where are my offices.
anybody, any other questions? Yeah. I'll open it to the public. Then nobody's gotten up, I will close the public hearing. All right, you ready to move on? Going to E, to amend section 3.02 to update several definitions, improving consistency with the state building code and other regulations.
These are part of what was presented by the building inspector when he came in. Working on just improving some clarity and well, kind of aligning definitions with what's used in the building code.
So family can't be any person.
No, that's an individual.
Where is? The old definition was family is one or more persons related with blood or community. Transient guests.
No longer travelers. Anybody got any questions, comments? I think it's pretty straightforward. And that just aligns with the state. I'll open to the public, see if anybody's got any comments on. I'll close the public hearing.
Make the motion to add proposed amendment E to the warrant article.
Second?
All those in favor?
Sandy second.
Aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. We lost Jared.
Back.
All right, F, to amend section 7.08 to update the definition of home-based daycare to be consistent with RSA 672:1 V-A.
This one, I know we just did all the definitions. This one's separate because it's in the home-based daycare section of the ordinance, not in the definition section. There's a new RSA and we just wanted our definition to align with it. So it used to limit the specific number of children that could be considered a home-based daycare. And now it just refers to like DHHS rules. So we took out the part that limited the number of children.
So there's still a limit. It's just.
It's just, we're not providing it in our definition.
Got it.
It's the state.
Got it.
Refers to the RSA, which refers to DHHS.
Got it. Yeah. Okay, good.
That
That's a good one.
RSA 672 refers to the DHS.
The RSA.
272 is.
672, yeah, but that specific
Oh,
section.
that's specific.
Yeah, it's.
I just want to make sure that it does
Same.
reference that.
It does. Let me just 672(1). Yeah, so. Yeah, so it made a change that family or group family childcare shall be allowed as an accessory use to any primary residential use, shall not be subject to local site plan review regulations in any zone where residential use is permitted. So that was the change that was made. Our ordinance already provides for that, so we didn't have to make any changes there. But it says, yeah, shall be allowed as long as all requirements for such programs adopted in rules of the Department of Health and Human Services, HEC 4002, are met. So it specifically references their rules.
Good.
Okay. Open to the public, see if anybody's got any comments on F. Seeing that, I'll close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to add proposed amendment F to the warrant.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? All right, moving right along. G, to amend section 11.04F to increase the maximum length of time that a temporary manufactured home may be in place after a disaster from 12 to 18 months.
Is there a specific reason that this came up, or is this just more us using common sense on what modern building?
Yeah, it's just the latter. So there, we haven't had any specific uses of this lately. But just knowing that you can't rebuild a house in 12 months necessarily. I just had an addition put on my house. It took, 8 months. It was only a piece of a house.
I mean,
And there was no disaster we were recovering from.
there have been in the past, the houses damaged by fire where
Right.
people had a manufactured house there.
Yeah, so it's just kind of understanding that it takes time.
So what happens after 18 months?
Then they would have to get rid of the trailer, or I assume they.
And the house isn't rebuilt yet?
I'm guessing that the building inspector could use his judgment, but
They could request an extension though, couldn't they?
remember if it, where is it? Oh. Let's see what else it says.
And how do we know when the placement started? Didn't they just say that
Because they would have to get a permit for it.
they do have to come in for a permit for it? Okay.
While we're looking at that, I don't want to go back on the other one thing that we just voted on, but do people know how to look up RSAs?
A lot
Like
of people
we're
probably
referencing
don't
it
even
to an
know what
RSA.
RSAs are.
Like when people like just have no idea
Google.
what, I mean, I know like
Just Googling them
most
now.
people would just Google it and it would come up, but
Right.
so it's, I mean, if they figured out how to find the zoning ordinance.
was gonna say,
probably
they
could
can-
figure out how to.
That's
fix it
hard.
Yeah.
You have a building inspector to ask. You come
I
to
will
the
also
town.
just say, if anyone's watching in the digital world, that if you have questions, our office is open 7:30 to 4, and I'm happy to discuss these with you. Anytime. I would love to talk about zoning ordinance amendments.
Okay, so anybody, any other questions on that? I will open it to the public. Seeing any, I will close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to add proposed amendment G to the warrant.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Everybody's giving me second in here. All right. H, to amend various sections to correct formatting and clarify language for consistency.
It's just the catch-all.
Ah,
This is just throughout the. Okay.
I will say that, just go through, I don't think there's really anything that's changing
Media.
meaning or changing a policy on anything. It's mostly clarifications. So the first is just changing it so we don't have to keep updating it with a new date every time. So it just says upon passage. Accessory dwelling units, saying that it used to say occupied by the owner of the property. Instead, it just clarifies that you're actually an owner on the deed. Home occupations, we took out it says it does not require the use of on-site advertising because elsewhere it says you can have a small sign. And then, yeah, he added contractor's yard as being one of the expressly prohibited home occupations. It basically already was based on the restrictions as given based on like the types of, you can't have heavy equipment, but it's very clear from just say you can't have a contractor's yard in your yard.
What happens if you do?
You get a visit from the code enforcement officer and he will try to work it out with you. You'll get a letter, we'll move on to a
After the neighbor
violation.
complains.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, it's worked,
Yes.
it's based off of
Got it.
complaints, but it can go through the courts if it needs to. But we try to work it out with people first.
Yeah, makes sense.
So if you have a excavator just for your own use, and
Mhm.
that's okay, right?
Yeah, if it's registered to, it's, you own it personally, yeah. But if
When you're doing
you're
work with
running a
it.
business from your
Yeah.
home and your business owns it. then that's
Sitting on a
different.
flatbed.
And then you
and you
drive it
keep
to the
moving it
job
in and
site every
out.
day, then that's different. But sometimes there's a little bit of gray area that gets tricky. Interesting. The daycare center 7.08 part was, they used to require evidence of approval under state permitting, but I think sometimes they're working on both approvals in parallel, so. Sometimes, and I think sometimes you have to, CHHS will want the CO before they'll get their approval, so they can't be tied to each other that way.
Makes sense.
The accessory buildings, he tried to fix the language because it talks about required yard area, which I think is a confusing phrase for people. He, explained that it's refers to the table of dimensional regulations. And then that's the same with storage of boats and RVs, et cetera. And added that you can park, if your permitted driveway is within the minimum yard requirements, you can park a camping trailer on it, boat or whatever else. Yeah, then the part about, you took out or trailer because you're not gonna get a valid inspection sticker on a utility
Yeah,
trailer.
because there's no,
Yep.
Makes sense.
7.27. We just updated to say state building code because this numbers and sections get updated all the time. Just try and change some words to make that sound better. Your building inspector, he added the reference to the RSA that refers to. Enforcing authorities, just changing a word to make it more clear. New buildings and structures, it refers to the fee schedule. Just his explanation that not all additions to building, like if you're putting an addition on a house, you wouldn't necessarily need to come to the planning board for that. So he tried to. And then just content of application, kind of just changed basically based on what requirements he has now. And changed, they used to require the foundation plan prior to backfill, and it's just not realistic to get that then. So now it's just before the CO, before it's done, we need an as-built plan. And then took out the requirement for hard copy paper plans because it's all digital.
Going on now.
1405A building permit, so extension, allowing a little more time on building permits. Or no, 6 months and 180 days.
Right, I
is
was
the
gonna
same.
say.
Never mind, that's the same, it just,
Well, you'll further down, you change 5 to 10 days.
okay,
Upon review, building inspector shall grant or deny request within
Okay.
10 days.
yeah. Request. Added, it's unlawful to use or occupy any structure, because some structures are not occupied, they're used. Number 2, he just put reference to the use regulations. Change the job titles. Took out the requirement to submit a copy of a notice of decision because he already has it. Just kind of streamlining the process of basically making it the way making the ordinance match the processes we already use. One change here, so it says previously said the applicant, so this is if you get a temporary occupancy permit, like if it's not quite done, you have some outstanding things, but it's safe to be occupied still. It used to say that the applicant shall provide a cash escrow saving, basically a bond. And he changed it to he may be required to, so he can use his discretion at when that's necessary or not. Under violations, he used to just say, I think he's just trying to give himself more flexibility. Sometimes there's a notice of violation, sometimes there's an order. So he changed it to be an and or.
Yeah, and actually on the D, that's where I didn't know whether you wanted to have it and or with a slash or what have you, because the the slash was absent.
Sorry, where?
D, the very last item
Item.
in the,
Oh, yeah, the slash right there. I see it.
Who's the zoning
I took
administrator?
you out of it.
Is that you?
It's Scott and I do it together. I'm not honestly not sure which one of us it's supposed to be, but basically we consult on those matters.
Is that the right person or term for a person?
I think it is because it's more generally understood what that means. But as far as that role, we do it together. All right. So that's H. Okay.
Any questions, comments from board? I'll open to the public. Not seeing any, I will close the public hearing. That was H.
I'll make a motion to. Make a motion to add proposed amendment H to the warrant.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? There you go.
So I'm gonna add that slash in D, but we don't need to have a second public hearing for that.
So we are coming back to what,
Indeed.
B and D?
Okay.
All right.
And so I assume you want to do that on the 16th at your regular meeting? We will have a full evening that night, so clear
So-
your calendar.
What if you don't hear back on D before the next one? Could that get pushed to the,
But we have to do it before February 3rd, so you'd have to have a special meeting. So we'll try to avoid that.
And if we weren't able to get anything from them, I'm sure why we wouldn't, but we wouldn't do anything with it this year.
I think
You'll have to
we
decide.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
you
I think
just
we, I
have to
think we
run
need
it.
need, I
to.
think we need to, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I want that.
I will say, so he did say he did review the report and the fee study and had no concerns about that and felt that that was defensible. So that part of it is clear. It's more of the process and like making our old ordinance work right. But the study is been blessed.
Okay. Any other new business? We got minutes.
Few sets of minutes because we forgot to print them last time.
Yeah. Here. You were not.
I was not.
Yes.
No, this was the salt.
Patty, do you have any?
I have, let's see, just in line 31, where it said, Ms. Clevin said that these are secondary contaminant, it's contaminant levels. And probably after it says that don't require treatment and just put a period there. And says that the levels are published in an annual report provided to all water customers.
Let's just delete the word but.
But yes. Then I think it is. That might be the only one. That's the only one.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of December 5th as amended.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And I will abstain. Any opposed? Yeah.
The December 19th minutes. I will say Ginger was out and I squeezed them in among the holidays. So if there's things that need to be fixed, we'll fix them.
Okay.
Yeah, I reviewed these ones, right?
I don't know that.
Oh, you did not.
I didn't.
Yeah, these were,
They happened,
between illnesses and holidays, things
Yeah.
have been a little out of sorts in our office.
Do you want a chance to review?
Would you like time to, to review them more? We could hold them off till the next meeting.
Yeah, can you send me the Word file?
Yeah, Ginger will tomorrow.
I know it, one of the things with the presentation, is, that identifying which wetland you're talking about is, you know, really difficult. So I don't know whether we want to use kind of, you know, compass directions or, you know, nearest to the 3A. You know, it's just kind of hard because I'm like, oh, I don't think that's right. Oh, okay, there, we're talking about the other one.
Yeah, so we can
So-
try and fix that. I also will say I summarized heavily. So if there's anything that anyone feels was left out that shouldn't have been, I think we can go back and recapture a section if we need to. But try to do it quick.
Okay, so you'll review those and we'll do it next time.
Oh, well, I wrote that Ginger was here.
oh, yeah, I noticed that.
I was like, wait, Ginger wasn't here, otherwise the minutes would have been back.
COVID state.
That was the first thing to change.
So we'll review next time.
Yeah, we'll do this.
To remain non-public.
That's it.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Bye.